All right, guys. If you read the thumbnail to this video or this podcast episode, we're doing some marriage questions with none other than Mr. and Mrs. Ellis. How do you guys feel?
Oh, outstanding.
Feel good.
Okay. Oh, this is my wife, Jemia. We was going to do an episode together to let y'all know who she was, but we just going to go with it. We going to roll with the punches. All right. So the first thing we're going to ask you guys to get started, tell us y'all story of how y'all, first, how you started dating and go all the way through. You can take as long or as short as you want.
Okay, well, that's a good story. Actually, she and I met in high school. We were actually, 10th grade? Ninth grade. Yeah, so we've been around for a while. Now, the story goes back a lot farther than that, because if we find our second grade pictures, this is when they had all of the students to sit down in the bleachers.
Okay.
And then you kind of take the one group picture in the class, and you'll find that out of 30-some kids that was in that class, Diane and I were sitting side by side on the very front row, front and center. Oh, wow. So it kind of goes back from there. But we actually started dating in the 9th grade in high school. So what happened, my version of the story is she begged me to date. But that's not exactly true. But no, actually what happened, we were in junior ROTC, Air Force junior ROTC class, and she had her two little friends. That's all she ever actually dealt with, was those 2 or 3 friends in the high school coming through. But her friends was always in our business, and in the business, should I say. So the friends, she wrote a letter. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. She wrote the letter and gave it to her friends, and a friend gave the letter to me. And I called myself this outstanding athlete. I'm the jock at the time. So I was like, nah. And then all of a sudden I sat there and I looked at her. I said, yeah, girl's kind of cute now. And so therefore, short story, we began dating shortly after that.
Okay. Since high school. Now, I know that people talk about, well, Jemia know more than I do. I was homeschooled, but how they start off in high school and then they just break apart. How did y'all stop that from happening?
Well, we didn't. We had one breakup. I believe it was during, not in high school, but it was during his beginning Air Force years, right? College years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do y'all want to talk about why it happened, or we gonna let it slide?
Let me see. How did it happen?
And tell the whole story.
How did it happen? Well, I think what happened was, I think he had found a letter that I had wrote to somebody else, and somebody else had wrote to me, another guy. And it got upset and whatever, and so we broke up for a short period of time.
Now, I found the letter, and it was somewhat confusing because that guy had the same last name as I did. But no relation whatsoever. It's somebody who actually just come in and so on and so forth. And I'm thinking, I said, I didn't write this letter. But they had to have the same last name as I did. And so I was like, I know I didn't write that. And that's kind of where everything kind of got started. But the breakup only lasted a couple of days.
Only a couple of days?
It was a couple of days, and I was calling again. With the one song that I was playing in the background, it was a Natalie Cole song.
Natalie Cole.
I Got Love on My Mind or something like that. I forgot. But I was playing that song.
That was one of my favorite songs.
And I playing it kind of loud so she can hear the song being played.
Okay.
While I'm trying to make amends and apologize and everything. And so we got back together.
Okay. That's interesting. All right. Now we saw how they met. They had just one. No other breakups. No, nothing else. Just the one. So now, y'all know my story of how I proposed. So how did you propose?
Oh, wow. Now, the proposal. Do I tell him that whole story?
Just part of it.
The proposal.
It seems like it's so
Short
serious.
version.
Oh, it was something there. That's right. The short version to that was I was getting ready to go into. Well, no. I was out in college. I was actually and looking for a job, trying to find income and so on and so forth. We already had a child, and so therefore I'm sitting here saying I can't find a job. I can't. Everybody telling you at that time. This is when you actually showed up at the work site and you asked them, are they hiring? Mm-hmm. It wasn't today's thing. Yeah. And so everybody was telling me, now come back tomorrow, check back tomorrow, or we'll call you, or whatever the case may be. So nobody basically hiring. And so I come up with this little thought in my mind. I told her, babe, what I'm going to do, I'm going to join the military. I'm going to join the Air Force, and then I'm going to come back and get you. She didn't believe me. She didn't think it was going to actually happen. So I joined the Air Force in December of 80. And I came back in December of 81, and we got married on Christmas Day, December 81.
Christmas Day. So you gave her the ultimate gift.
I gave her the ultimate gift, me.
Christmas Day.
Yes.
I know that's
It's also his birthday. Because, at that time we thought it was kind of cute.
Yeah. We thought that was real cute. It's my birthday. I've been cheated all my life. I get one gift says happy birthday and Merry Christmas. And so now it says happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and happy anniversary on the bottom.
Oh, man.
And then I says, well, I'll never forget the day. So I won't miss that date. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. You got any questions? Or do you want to get to these questions that... Now, for these questions, I got these questions in 2021-22 by different people that wanted to ask marriage questions, and it's been brewing for a while. But Jemia, you got any questions, or do you want to get to these questions?
I do want to ask this one because we'll talk about the proposal and marriage. So what made you decide to get married?
We were in love. I knew that he was the person that I wanted to be with. I had no doubt. And so, yeah.
We had dated for 6.5 years. She always says 6 years, but I say 6.5 years. We dated for 6.5 years before we got married. And so we understood the fact that we were going to be together. But the thing was holding us up was I didn't have a job. I'm in college or whatever the case may be. And I'm not going to move her into my parents' house. And I'm not going to move in her parents' house.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So we understood that. So therefore, it was a 6-year engagement.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And at that time, times was hard. You're talking about a young black couple in the South, and jobs were hard to come by for either of us. So, yeah, it took a little while. We had that, I think, that mindset that we weren't going to try to get married and live with our parents.
Yeah, that's a high one. Well, that was on my priority list too. You could get. I mean, anybody can get married quick and easy, but where you gonna live?
Right.
What's after that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the plan after that? Where you gonna live? What you gonna eat? What are you gonna do? So yeah, I understand that.
And look, and that's where the military came in, because that was a way of support.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I would get housing, they would give me housing for my family, and so on and so forth. So therefore, all of that was taken care of with that swipe.
So would you say it was easier? Well, easier in a sense to go to the military instead of trying to find something around? Because you guys are from Memphis, right? Where were you from?
Batesville,
Mississippi.
Oh, Batesville. Oh, yeah,
Batesville and Cortland. Let's not leave Cortland out.
So would you? Knowing Batesville, I think would you say it was easier to find, going to the military than trying to find something around here? I know you said you were looking.
There's there's no doubt whatsoever. As I say, I was in college, but going to the Air Force, and I say it's not for everybody, but that was the best move I think at the time that I could have made. That move kind of set me on a course where I says, okay, now I know there is success out there. I can be successful with this, and so on and so forth. That was one of the best moves I could have ever made as far as life goes.
All right. Where you want to take us?
Okay, so when y'all got married, how was like the first year of marriage?
He's laughing.
Now I'm not going to answer all of the questions as far as that. I'm going to let her jump in here. Jump in as whenever you want. We got married when we got, as I say, we got married on Christmas Day of '81, and so we spent our little honeymoon thing was about nothing. It wasn't anything. It was like get together. We went to the hotel and that was that. And then I turned and went back. I was stationed at Little Rock, Arkansas. So I went back to the base. She stayed there. She was working in Batesville.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, this is interesting.
Oh, it's very interesting. So she was working in Batesville, and so therefore I went back to Little Rock, to the Air Force Base, and go back and I'm trying to find a place and so on and so forth. So first we started moving off base. We moved in the apartment off base, but I was there for. It took about 6 months for me to convince her to let her job go and come on, move to Arkansas with me. Every time I would think I'd find a place, or every time an opportunity came up, I said, "Babe, are you ready to come?" She's like, "Not yet. I'm gonna work a little while longer." And that was her mentality: is I'm gonna work a little while longer. And so, therefore, next thing you know, 6 months done passed. I'm going back and forth from Arkansas back home. And
That's
stuff
like
this.
4 or 5 hours, right?
That's a ride, yeah. So
And the speed limit was lower
and
then.
the speed limit was 55, and you drove the speed limit during that
Yeah,
time. So
yeah.
So it was something, and so 6 months down the road, finally I get her to move to Jacksonville, Arkansas, and so that's when we started really the union together.
So turning to your side, I got some questions about this. So was it the money that was keeping you, or was it, familiarity and being around family?
That's a good question.
I think it was a little bit of both. It was being around family, hadn't ever really been away from home. Come from a big family, and that's all pretty much I knew, that community. And then also, too, I think it was the money, making the little bit of money. And then also, we still had to go to Jacksonville and find a place to stay. So I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay. You got any more questions on this?
Let me straighten one thing, because I say, when you're in the Air Force does provide you housing. But when you first get there, that young couple has to find their own place and live off base first. And then after about 3 to 6 months or what have you, then they will provide you a house on base, if the house is available, and then you move in and you're good.
Is that because of the divorce rate or something, so that they don't have to worry about having to switch you back out or something like that?
I think it was pretty much because of the dependency. You come in as a single person, and now all of a sudden you're a married person, and now they got to change all of your paperwork. They got to get everything.
Okay.
So it's an administrative type thing.
And it wasn't digital back then. It was
Availability. It was availability.
Yeah, they get
it was
ship it
antiquated,
to where you gotta
analog.
go.
Yes. We dealt with Fortran and Cobalt. But okay.
You got any more questions on this? Wait. Okay, so 6 months, you finally living together. Now, what about the year after that, when you finally living together? How was that?
Tough. Because we had to, when you think you know someone, you really don't. You really don't. And when you, yes, you got to learn each other. You think you know each other, but you really don't know each other. And then, we had a young child. Adam was about 6 or 7. Adam was about 6 or 7.
Adam was about 6, yeah.
So we had to, we had to build our little family together because we had lived together before. I had to have the responsibility of the cooking and cleaning and all that type of stuff. So it was a little rough.
And the household that she came out of, she was raised up with a grandmother, and so she was one of the primary cooks in that house. But there was probably 20 people in that house or more, and that's no exaggeration. And so she learned to cook. She learned to cook big.
Now it's 3 people in the house.
3 people in the house, and she's still cooking, but she's cooking big. And so I'm like, okay, wait, babe, you got to cut it down.
He just had plenty of
And
leftovers.
so what happened was that was leftover.
Eating spaghetti for 4 nights in a row.
Oh, man, what you say? So I started inviting a lot of my friends to come after work, and they come on to the house, and therefore that was their dinner meal that day. So they would eat, and we pretty much kind of finished everything, and yeah, that's how we kind of did that. But yeah.
Now, was the how many bathrooms did you have in your first house?
Actually, our first home was a duplex, which was very nice compared to some other people. It was a 3-bedroom duplex.
No.
Was it 2 bedrooms?
2 bedroom,
2 bedroom,
1 bath.
2 bed, 1 bath. Now I'm looking at you. I'm going to block her out. I'm going to look at you.
Yes.
So now, were there times when you were about to go to the base and you were trying to get your stuff ready, but she was in there?
Oh, as always, that's a lot of times. Now that has gone down through history. The men have always, I think, from the 1800s, men have always had that problem. Yes, sir. Plenty of times we trying to get ready and so on and so forth. But one thing about it, she was always understanding, because at that point in time she was not really working, and so she understood. I've got to get in there. I've got to get dressed. I've got to get to the base. And so yeah, but that was a different time. But she, like I say, she wasn't working. Now when she started working, there was another issue. As far as the bathroom.
I can imagine.
So a lot of times I'd run in the bathroom, take my 15 seconds, and run back in the bedroom, run back in the bedroom and get dressed while she was in the bathroom. So it was a give and take.
One more thing on this. I know you're in the Air Force, so you had a lot of discipline and things like that. How was it trying to, not stay up too late, not hang out too long talking to her and things, when you had to get up early, get back on the base, do all this other stuff? Or were you just doing it and just pushing through in the morning?
We were doing it and pushing through in the morning. For the most part, we were just living life. We was living that life, and you might get to bed 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was stressing, because on those times that I say I invited the friends over to come and eat, they didn't know how to leave.
It was those type of friends.
Yeah, so
they'd take their shoes off.
That's right. They take their shoes off, and they were real comfortable. And how Bishop said, they come in and they move the furniture around.
Yeah.
No.
So they didn't know how to leave. So a lot of times we had to kind of press through it and endure.
What time did you have to be up in the morning?
Oh man, most of the time I had to be at work or headed out at least by 6 a.m. So, headed out by 6.
And what time would you get back?
Different times on different days. Mostly when we were working the one shift, it was like 4 o'clock in the evening. And so 4 o'clock, get off at 4 o'clock, 4:30, back home.
Now, because I'm a husband, I got more questions on this point. So now you do all that work for the day. I know you have to spend time with your wife and talk to her and everything. So how did you gain did you always have the patience to just, I know when she first got there, you're probably like, all right, babe, I'm tired. I don't want to go sit down or something. How did you grow the patience to be able to,
She's always been a person whereas when I get home, and this is because what she did with coming up in her grandparents' house, I guess, in her grandmother's house, she's always been that person that she's going to cook, and she cooks early. And so the meal is already there. So by the time I get home, I'm going to wash up, and we pretty much ready to sit down to eat. And so that was a lot of the quality time, or that's a lot of the time that we spent together at that point in time. Then I probably take Adam out, and we go out and do something in the yard and play around or whatever the case may be. So with the preparation time, what would cause a problem is a lot of times that I wouldn't come directly home, and I try and go somewhere else and hang out with the fellas and eat out there, and I come home and she done cooked and I've already eaten. So that was a problem. So,
I know that rule. I learned from others. I don't do that. That's the one rule I know. I'd rather be hungry and get.
but the times that I would come home, she'd already prepared a meal, and we sit there and we would eat together, and we'd talk together, whatever the case may be. How was your day? All that kind of stuff, and then we'll go out and play with the kid in the yard or whatever the case, and so that was our quality time. That's our sharing time.
Now, I still got more, unless you got something to add on. Now, I know that, so, yeah, you spent the time together and all that. I think I just lost it. But now, here it is. So, nowadays, if there's one partner working in this society, they believe in sharing the housework. So, let's say, for example, Jemia goes to work every day. She's working she's making the money for the house. She paid the rent and all the bills. I'm at home all day. Probably, I don't know, doing whatever I'm doing all day. I cook the dinner, but I expect her to wash dishes and sweep the floor. So how did y'all do your responsibilities?
Well,
Yeah, it's different. Now it's crazy. Like there's mother, and I think both of y'all should answer because I know you're the one that was working at the time. And you were the one at the house. There's mothers now who say that, oh, this is a full-time job and it's too hard, so he's got to come home from his full-time job and help me with my full-time job and do things at the house. So how did you guys balance that?
You want to start?
well, I think in the beginning it didn't bother me because I just felt like that was part of my responsibility. Because I had the way I grew up, the mothers was in the home. And the fathers, the men was out working. So it didn't really bother me to do the things that I had did. And when we think about too, we had very little. We only had one car. 2 cars wasn't even thought of at that time, So, but I just did what was expected of me to do. It didn't bother me at that point.
And I agree. It was a different time.
Yeah.
It's pretty much was down to the point where my job from the inside of the house was basically take out the trash. From time to time, I might help with a few other things, but I try and take out the trash. That was my thing. And then I handled everything outside the house. So I'm gonna wash the car. I'm gonna take care of the yard. I'm gonna do all of those things there. So even right now today, it's still kind of understood between the two of us that she handles the inside of the house and I pretty much handle the outside of the house. So it's like, okay. But it was a different time. It was a totally different time. And in today's time, it's like, wait a minute. You got 2 cars. You got 2 responsibilities.
Yeah.
And you got your list of things that you need to accomplish, and you got yours, and so on and so forth. And you pray that you can get back together and share that quality time or whatever the case may be. But it was different with us.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Now on to let's get another question because I can stay at this point right here because we're 6 months in. We can stay at the first year all day.
And you're doing great. I love it.
Okay.
Whichever one you want.
Okay. So, how did you handle your arguments, through the whole year you've been married?
Oh, wow. I could say, honestly, not very well because I'm not really a talker. I'm not really a arguer. I don't argue. I don't talk. The worst thing you can do, which I did, silent. I can give you the silent treatment. And not even 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. And that was my way of dealing with it. But him, he's a talker. He always want to talk it out. That was not me. Even to this day, still, if I'm not careful, I'll fall back into that mode. I'll just get silent. Sometimes, I don't know whether it's my thinking is, well, if I don't say anything, can't say anything good, I just don't say it, say nothing at all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she's right. That was the thing is she was shut down on me. And so I'm sitting here, I'm asking a question, and I'm thinking it's valid. And I'm waiting for an answer. She was shut down. And so it got to the point where it's a lot of times we're trying to make a decision together, and she's on shutdown mode. And I'm having to make the decision, and I'm like, So it's frustrating. It was frustrating to me, and so I got to the point where I say, I'm just going to make a decision, and then we just have to live with the fact. We'll live with the outcome. That didn't always work out.
I was gonna ask.
I would say don't do it. Don't do it like that, because that also brings up an issue. But no, don't do it like that either. I don't take that advice. But it was tough. So a lot of times now, and so on and so forth, we are able to communicate about certain things, but still at that point in time, more serious matters, we don't communicate it as it should be. We get it out, we get it said, but we don't communicate it as it should be. This podcast is gonna be live.
Okay, that's interesting. I got questions, but we're gonna go with the questions on there. We're gonna go with the questions on there. Well, I know, because conversations with people that you love sometimes is more intense than with people that that you don't care about as deeply. So like, she would say to me, well, you don't like, if we having a conversation, I won't call them arguments, but if we having a conversation about something, she would say, well, when you with X, Y, or Z, you don't say it like that. And it's like, well, I'm more intense in this because this is of more value to us. So, how do you let the Lord deal with y'all in those moments?
It took me a while to yield. I didn't have that type of discipline where I'd wait for the Lord to answer. I felt like, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do, and this is the way we're gonna handle that, and so on and so forth. And it always turned, well, not always, but most of the time it turned out to be worse. Me just making a decision and going with it turned out to be worse because that was not what she was thinking. But when we got to a point where prayer became the source, then a lot of things we prayed about, a lot of things we prayed together about, but then a lot of things we prayed separately about, and so on and so forth. And then we would come and then we say, "Well, I was thinking about this such and such, or I was praying about this," and then we can talk. But if I just go to her on a whim and just say, "Hey, let's talk about this. I'm thinking about buying this car, this such," she might shut down on it, and I understand that. But I got to handle it just differently.
So as a man, you have to love your wife as Christ loved the church. How has that journey been in learning to love her like Christ loved the church?
Okay, let me go back and say it like this then. In those conversations, the disagreements, and whatever the case may be, the one way that I learned to love her as I figured Christ loved the church is I just wouldn't bring it up. I would say, okay, I would be so concerned about her feelings and how she was going to feel or how she was going to respond about it or whatever the case may be. I just keep it all inside, and so I wouldn't do that. And then I find other ways to go by. I'd give her a hug or something like this, something like that, just to let her know that I'm there and I haven't forgotten or whatever the case may be. If I missed seeing you on yesterday and we didn't have that quality time, let's spend that time today. You just have to be concerned about the other's feelings and how they
More than your own.
More than your own.
Okay.
Much more than your own. As a matter of fact, mine was so far on the back burner that it was just not funny. I was always concerned about how she felt and how she was going to react concerning this issue or that issue or whatever the case may be. I might bring all kinds of craziness or crazy ideas in the house, but a lot of them I threw out and a lot of them I didn't.
So I'm getting the feeling that between the two of you, she seems like she was the saver and you were the spender more. Or am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're right. That's in the earlier years. In the earlier years, I would say I was a spender. I wanted the bling and the nice cars and so on and so forth. I wanted to, I was a spender. I would always I want to take you out, and I want to take you to the right restaurants, or I want to take you to do this and so on and so forth. So I'm the spender because I'm thinking I'm making her happy. And it wasn't necessarily that case all the time.
Okay, turning to you about this same question. Was your concerns with his spending more about livelihood and security of the family? Or was it just like, okay, I know we got the money, but we shouldn't be spending the money just because we have the money?
I think it was about security. Yes, I think it was about security. Having the security. When you come from a background of not having much, sometimes you tend to want to cling tighter to what you do have or what you bring in.
You got any questions about that?
So now, in that same question, now that it's so many years past and so on and so forth, I don't spend as much. She's the spender. I am not the spender.
So you switched roles in a
It
way.
has been changed, switched.
Well, maybe she became more. Well, the trust has grown too. So now she knows that the money's in there and it's not going anywhere. And you're more content with what you got now, and you're not.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm like, whatever.
You got anything to add on this one, or you want to go to another question?
We can go to another question.
Okay.
Let's see. Try to make sure I can read these.
This is really good. You know what? When it's thinking back, the previous questions, I thank God for Jesus, and it's just so important. We're so glad that we were brought up in the church, even though we both grew up in the Baptist church, but we didn't get into holiness until we left home. And it is so important to know that salvation is important. The baptism of the Holy Ghost is important, because if it had not been for Jesus, I don't think that we would have made it.
Right.
So
There's a thing as far as when you look back. Now, I'll tell anybody, and I always normally tell people, she was saved. She was saved as a teenager. God had to work on me. So he had to pull me back from some stuff and so on. But she was always that person that was always head at the church, and here she was in her teenage years, hanging around women that's 40 and 50 years old, and they dragging her from one church to another church, or so on and so forth. And me, I'm that knucklehead bouncing the basketball down the street. But yeah, she was that person that she was pretty much, as we say, the making of my salvation, because I knew I had to do some changing. I knew I had to get some stuff right as far as that goes. And so, yeah. I can't look at any time as far as the time that we've shared together. I can't look at any time where I can't say that she was not about the church, or not about in the church and speaking Christ. So
I think that's a good thing, because I know when we first started dating, I was more worldly than she was, and she had to straighten me out a little bit. Yeah, she had to straighten me out too.
okay, so we there.
But that's a good thing.
it's a good thing,
That's how I
because
know.
it helps you to deal with the situations that come, early on. And we could look back at, what we were taught and say, okay, we can, God can help us handle this a little bit different, in which we learn to compromise. We got
That's the C word that can bend or end relationships right there.
Yes, without a doubt. That word is important as far as the relationship goes, compromise. It never can be just a one-sided or one-way affair as far as that goes. One thought, one process. No. It's always compromise.
We'll come back to that. I'm going to try to remember this question. I'm going to let her pick the question right now.
Okay. Okay. What is one piece of advice you give a young couple to get where you are?
Wow. Go, baby.
It don't have to be just one
Okay.
Yeah, it could be
either.
many.
It can be many if you have a lot.
I'm going to say, God, first of all. Communication, which is a big plus. You know, we find out that it's still a big plus. Whatever that you're engaged in with family, with friends, communication, which, you know, I said privilege. That was kind of hard for me because I don't talk as much as he do. I don't express myself. I tend to hold it in. So I would say the best advice, trust, communication. Trust, communication.
And I would say it like this, as far as a couple goes, as far as before you got married, you were friends. And no matter what the process, Diane and I have been married now for 44 years. We dated for 6 years before we got married. All right, so that gives you 50, right?
Yeah.
But we're still friends. And for the most part, that's still my best friend. So you can't set that aside. Yes, I love her. Yes, and sometimes the love changes from one spectrum to another as far as that goes. But we always have been friends. So we always been friends to the point where we want to see each other. We like seeing each other, you know, in that space together, whatever the case may be. And so that's the way I always tell people. I said, yeah, we've been married for 44 years, but we're still friends.
I think that is the most important piece, because a lot of people get married to people that they don't even like, even though they're not even they weren't friends or anything. And it's unfortunate, especially in situations where, you know, the lady got pregnant and the families basically pushed the people together to get married. I hate seeing that when they're not friends. You don't even know each other for really. You want to put another question, or you got a question off the top of your head?
I'll pick another question.
Okay.
It left me. I was like, oh no. Okay. Okay, I think y'all talked about this a little bit, but this question says, how are you sensitive to each other's needs?
Wow. Well, 44 years. I kind of know him. I know what he likes, pretty much what he don't likes. I know how to push, and I know how to pull back. Pull back. I know. Okay. Let me stop. so
We're gonna cut this show right.
So yeah, I would say being sensitive. Yeah, when knowing the person.
I could agree with that answer. Know the person, and I know her. So yeah, you tend to their likes and their dislikes, and how far to go and how when to okay, let's put brakes on that now, and then you don't let other people outside come in and throw that interference in their relationship. That's an important part that's got to be said. Don't let outside throw that interference in the relationship.
Family or friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would wreck everything.
Yeah. How long did it take before you said, okay, I know I have a passing grade in knowing them. I still need to know more, of course, but I'm doing okay so far in knowing this person. Or did you never do that and just kept pursuing to know more?
I think you continue to understand stuff as you go, but I always I say, you've been with a person 3 to 5 years. 3 years, you're gonna know them pretty good. You're gonna know. 5 years, you'll know those intimate things, those things that they were still trying to hold a secret and hold back, and so on and so forth. So 3 to 5 years, you should know that person very well. Now, in the first year, you make it past that first year in marriage, you're doing great. You're better than the average. But 3 to 5 years, that's where you know the person.
And then be flexible, because sometimes you can think that you know a person and you don't, because there's different seasons in our lives. Maybe what I liked the first year, I don't like now. The fifth year, I don't like that anymore, or we don't do that anymore. It's different in different stages of life in the relationship, should I say.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. You stole my question.
I stole your. That's my fault. I'll take blame. See, we're in sync. We're in sync.
See, you're thinking, you get there, you get there.
I was thinking about it. You said, I was like, oh.
I see it, 6 months, 6 months.
It only took 6 months.
Good.
She stole my brain. That's what happened.
Okay. Okay, so this question says, did you get confirmation from God that your spouse was going to be your spouse?
I did. I did. When I was younger, that young teenage, 16, 17, and so on and so forth, I was in church and was in church on a regular basis and so on and so forth. And so I prayed a lot at that point in time. And and then when we were dating, during that time we were dating and stuff like this, God told me then, I knew that was going to be my wife. That's why in the whole dating process, it took 6 and a half years. 6.5 years, out of 6.5 years of dating, there was no leaving, no saying, hey, she's not going to be the one, and so on and so forth. Now, I'll go ahead, I'll admit the fact that, I was a knucklehead, and I was running around and peeping at that one and peeping at this one, so on and so forth. But this one right here was always, that was number one. That was the one that I was going to be with. Even when I was in college, there was me peeping and doing so on and so forth. But at the same time, I didn't have any money. So this one here was going to buy me lunch.
She bought you lunch?
He never took my money. He never took my money.
It was the other one that was talking about buying me lunch. Okay. And so she bought me lunch and stuff like this. And then when it come down to her, she had a good job. She had a good job making some good money and so on and so. But I could never take her money. I would not take her money.
Even when I left college, and he was still in college, and I would try to give him money, because his parents, they didn't have money like, to give or whatever. He never would take my money.
I would.
Never. He would never take.
I know that. Not from the top girl in you.
She got me lunch. Thank you.
I don't think about you like that.
Oh, wow.
I can't take her money. No. That's it. And that's exactly how it was.
And I would say on that part of confirmation, I don't say that, I think I knew that I loved him and I wanted to be with him, but I wasn't far enough along in my relationship with God to say I heard God say, that this is going to be your husband. I don't think I was at that point, but I knew that I was in love with him, and I knew that I wanted to be with him. And at that time, that was enough, for me.
Not only did I hear from God, I was hearing from other people. My mom was telling me, that's going to be your wife. My dad was saying, oh, I think you're going to marry that girl. Yeah, so, but I did. I really do believe I heard from God as far as that.
My mom said it too. We was going on the first date. She was like, "Oh wow, that's gonna be the one." I'm like, "Can you let us go on the first date and figure some things out?" Yeah. Well, she wasn't wrong. She wasn't wrong. You want to go to the next one or
Okay, let's see.
wherever you want to go?
Okay, so this is a good one. So, what advice would you give a young married couple about managing finance and budgeting? Because we have like a budget and it's working pretty well, but what advice would y'all give about budgeting?
I'll put it like this. You're better now than where we were at that time because we wasn't thinking about a budget. I'm in the military and so on and so forth, and she's coming to live with me. And we were living from check to check, and that was just plain and simply it, because that was pretty much all the money there was. Yeah. So it wasn't like, okay, well, I'm going to put I'm going to put 200 back. And so, no, my check was
Wasn't
200.
that right? You talk about making $5 an hour, $4 and something an hour.
Oh,
then.
Lord.
So the whole check was 200, and so the whole check was going to take care of the rent and the utilities and everything else at that point in time. So when you're talking about where you are now, you're setting a budget, you have you financial literate. We wasn't there. You know, it took a while to grow into that stage, to grow into that place, and so now we understand that we got to figure out a way to set something back. That's why it was important for me to stay in the military, to retire, because I said, okay, I retired at the age of 41. So I'm retired, and so therefore you get a paycheck for the rest of your life. And I'm like, oh, wow, yeah. I can go get a second career, which I did. I started teaching high school and then retired from that one. And so, oh, wow.
Now you had
And so now I got two C's coming in, and now I'll say, let's go and continue to press. And so in the continuing to press, you know, other financial gains came and so on and so forth, and we started trying to set something there and just be just in case money. We could afford to do the just in case money, but it took some years. So on the initial side of it, there really wasn't a whole lot there to be talking about. Okay, the check is $200, so I'm gonna put $20 back. Okay, that would have been great. I couldn't do that. And one time we started savings bonds, and so we had a nice.
Y'all know what those are? Saving bonds.
Saving bonds. Oh, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So it's like what's face value on the bonds. You know, if you keep it for maturity and you cash the bond in, it doubles the value of so on and so forth. So we did that for a long time.
As a matter of fact, with those saving bonds, let me back up a little bit. After a while, I did start work. Every place that we went, every state or wherever we moved to, I would work. I started working for the government, and I would work. But it takes a lot to work. But then now to move forward and get to those savings bonds, we actually, when we first came to Memphis, that was part of the down payment on our first home. Was saving bond. We cashed them in.
We took those, we cashed them in, and we said, okay, here's what, and that's where we got our first home. So, and let me tell you something. Before that, her job and stuff like this. I told her initially when she first finally came after the 6 months. I said, babe, you don't have to work. You know, I got this. I got it covered. And so we don't want to worry about it. You ain't got to work. And so, but then I told her, I said, but if you get a job and you start making bills, those bills is your responsibility. You know, as far as that goes. Now, I got you covered. Car, insurance, mortgage, whatever the case may be, you ain't got to work. But if you go get your job and you start making bills, those are your bills. And next thing I know, she got 30 credit cards in her purse, Lane Bryant and Sears and Dillons and everybody else. I'm like, okay, go ahead, girl.
Go ahead. As long as it's in your name.
That's your name.
It's not joint, nothing. Just
That's right. But it went for a while, and I said, you don't have to work. We got it covered, even though we didn't have the excess to play with as far as that goes. But it was still trying to, as a man, trying to do that thing that a man should do is take care of his home. Yeah, but yeah.
I know it was a different time and you didn't have, social media. I know you had, friends and people who would tell you what they did, but social media opens you up to a whole nother avenue of discontentment in what you have. How did you guys stay content during the time? So, when you couldn't go on vacation for your honeymoon or, bills got to be paid, so we can't go get ice cream this week or something like that.
You have to remember a lot of what we did was, we were stationed in the Philippines for 4 years. Then we come back to Texas for 2 years. Then we go back to Japan for 4 years. And then we come back and we go. So a lot of ours was that vacation, as we would say. We were actually gone into those destinations that people say, okay, I want to go to Japan for on a trip, or I want to go to the Philippines, or I want to go to Korea, or I want to go to Guam, or different places. And so we were doing those things. And so we had, it was easy in the military. like for instance, one year of our anniversaries, we took off from the Philippines and went to Hong Kong, and we stayed in Hong Kong that was right before China took it over again, and so on and so forth. But we stayed in Hong Kong for a week and a half, and come back, and so we were doing different little trips. Oh yes, we get together. So, okay,
Go to Korea.
We could hop on a military aircraft. We can hop on a military jet and fly, and basically fly free of charge to those places. And so,
Lovely. So basically, seek ye first the kingdom.
and all these things,
And his righteousness.
and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added. Yeah. So.
Okay, so be content, and what you're looking for, you'll find.
Oh, you will. You will
Yes.
find.
Be content and don't look at what others have, because you don't know what it took for them to get it or how they got it. So find it in your heart. Find it to just be content with what you have. You might not be able to have that, for us ladies, name brand purse or that name brand dress, but then just be content with what you have. Make that work for you. You might not be able to get that luxury car right now, but be content with what God has given you. That's why it all goes back into having a relationship with God and knowing God, because he helps us with that. He helps us with those things, with those mental things like that.
My daughter and son, what they tend to think about a lot of times, which is different than us, is they think about the right now, and they want to spend their money for the right now, and they want to be the happiest for the right now. And you can't think about the right now. You have to look at, okay, well, I can wear this old pair of pants and so on and so forth, and so what? I guess I came up with about 3 pair of pants, and I used to iron them, and them jokers would be shiny and everything, and I would still be wearing them. But I understood one day it's going to be better.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So keep ironing your pants and let them shine.
It's
on.
funny because another pair of my pants just tore. I was like, well.
Hey. And so you have to do that. And so and being in the military, a lot of times we were in uniform anyway.
Right.
So I'm walking around in a uniform, and I didn't have to worry about that. But the main thing is what she said. Don't worry about what the other people are doing, what other people are wearing, what the other people are driving, and all the other kind of stuff like that. No, you are you. Y'all grow to y'all do it at your own pace, the pace that God actually gives you, and you're gonna see it's gonna work out for you good. I guarantee it's gonna work out for you good. Because right now we're okay. We ain't, we're comfortable. We all right. But it wasn't like that always. Them shiny pants, man, came in handy a bunch of times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the plague of today, because a lot of people, well, there's 2 camps. The first camp, they're not going to get married until they have all their ducks in a row. And by the time you do that, you might be, way far in age where you can't even do what you were going to do when you were younger. And then the other crew, they expect once you get married, everything just going to be the way it's supposed to be automatically. That's why I asked that, because, I got a lot of friends who, they're not going to get married until they have everything. At Ole Miss, we've had people have conversations with us. I'm not going to get married till I have my job, my money, my car, and my own house, and then I'm going to get married.
And they're going to find out that it don't work like that.
Right, it does.
It does not work like that. You can tell God your plan, but it's comical to him, because he's going to lead you, and he's going to place you where he desires you to be, as far as that goes. I've had a lot of friends say, okay, this is how it's going to happen, and I'm going to make it happen like this. Nah, something's going to come in to foil the plan.
Yeah, you can make all those plans, and you're not going to get everything, because we live in a world that is like the more you make or you try to make, the more you're going to spend. The more you're going to spend, the more things are going to cost. So no, I don't think it works like that. It didn't work like that for us.
No, at all.
No, it didn't work.
joint account. Now, account wise, I know you said whatever bills that she makes, she had to pay for it. Were you guys in a joint account, or was it separate accounts, or was it a joint and separate accounts?
Okay, we tried it different ways. Initially, we come up with a joint account, and so out of the joint account, we was going to pay all the bills and everything else, and then I was going to take a little bit of cash to put in my pocket, and she's going to take a little cash to put in her pocket, and we just going to try and operate it like that. It didn't work so well with us.
You want to elaborate on it?
A lot of things started to continue to get in the way because I still, out of my pocket, I'm still putting gas in the car, and I'm still, having to get the oil changed or whatever the case may be. Or there's always something, and I'm always having to go back to the bank and do this, and then she see a deduction. She asking like, wait a minute, what about this?
Where did this money go?
Where did this money go?
Yeah.
Or else she's going to the mall, or she's hanging out and she's going to buy this, that, and other stuff and like this, and the money that she put in her pocket wasn't enough, and all of a sudden she write another check, or whatever the case may be, and so you see the checks coming in, you like, we didn't talk about this. So the joint account didn't necessarily do the things for us. So then we come back later on and we says, okay, well, we're going to keep a joint account, but then we're going to open up individual accounts too. And so we're going to operate out of those individual accounts. So when she started working, she had a separate individual account that she put money in, and so did I.
Did your check go to your individual or to the joint?
The direct deposit went to the joint.
And then you took whatever you wanted,
Yeah.
well, a certain amount out of it.
A certain amount, and then I put it over in my little individual account or whatever the case. Because at that point in time, that's where I was trying to save, and that's when we started trying to do the savings bonds and all the other kind of stuff like this. But then I would get like, okay, wait, now I don't have any money because I just purchased that bond, and so now I got to go back to the seed of the joint account and get some more money because now my money went on that bond. And so it was always me going back or she going back and writing another check or whatever the case may be out of the same account. So we weren't disciplined. I can tell you 100% we were not disciplined financially coming up because we didn't have that example. A lot of times in school during our time, that was not necessarily something that was taught, that type of a discipline of being financially independent, concerning this is your paycheck or whatever the case may be. And so majority of people that are around you, they basically live paycheck to paycheck. And so that becomes kind of a thing where that's the norm. People live paycheck to paycheck. So we didn't have the discipline to finance. Later on, like I say, it was a learning process. So we would go back to school and we would take certain classes and so on and so forth and understand how to finance. By being in the military, I could not allow my accounts to go zero or go into the red. That wasn't understood because if anything come down and all of a sudden that bill goes to my first sergeant's desk or the commander's desk, then they're going to call me and ask me about my finances. And then I'm going to be in trouble based on that. So it was a hairy time.
So you have a joint account and then two separate accounts. Your check goes into the joint, and then you take out a little bit for yourself, and then then eventually you had your own job and okay. I think did we cover all the financial stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
One more question. Now, I know you guys didn't talk every time you made a big purchase or you made a big purchase, but how important is it to communicate those big purchases before they happen?
Major. Big purchases, and what do you call big?
Yeah, that's the other question. What is big in you guys' eyes? Our limit as X approaches money is like $50 right now.
I would say with us, now if I go out and if I make a purchase of $200, that would be considered a big purchase now. So now I could go out, and if I'm running through, let's say I'm running through Walmart, and I say, oh man, they just got brand new lawnmowers in, and I need a lawnmower, and it's $150. So okay, yeah, let me get this. I'm gonna get this. and then I go home and I'm pushing the mower in the yard. That might be okay because it's something for the house.
Yeah.
But if I'm coming back pushing, let me think of something else.
A bicycle. I don't know why that's the one that
A
comes to my
bicycle.
head.
If I'm coming back, and I just talked about a bicycle this morning.
Oh Lord.
I did, yeah. So if I'm coming back and she know I like bikes, if I'm coming back pushing a brand new bike, and that I just went out and spent money for it, that's a little much. So we need to talk about the bike type thing, and I might end up having to take the bike back. So yeah, but yeah.
You know, like a big purchase for us would probably be like, you know, he wouldn't just go out and buy a car, or I just wouldn't go out and buy a car on my own, you know, without talking to him, or we're going together to do it or whatever. Even to this day, I think the last vehicle he bought, it was so unusual when he bought it because he had never went to a dealership without me, right? So one day I came home from work and I go, hey, where are you? Because usually he's there, right? Where are you? He said, girl, I'm at the dealership. I said, whoa, what? At the dealership? At the dealership. And he said, told me what he was doing. He found something that he liked. And I was like, wow, good. But at this point in our life, you know, you're talking about in their 60s, I was so happy because he had never put himself first, or he had never had a new vehicle before. He always bought the new vehicles for me. I always got the best. So I was excited that he went, but yet I was so surprised because usually if it's any type of big purchase, whether it's a bicycle or anything, he was like, what you think? I would pretty much had to talk him into getting it like that. So that's what we would consider big purchase. So I wouldn't go out and buy a whole living room set. I wouldn't go out and buy a brand new refrigerator or a big stove. That's what we call big purchases.
Okay. Yeah, we know a lot of people who don't consult or, you know, just do things willy-nilly.
Don't work.
No.
That's a bad conversation later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know you got questions. Go ahead.
Let's see, what other questions? Okay, so what do y'all think is the most important lesson you can learn from like marriage?
The most important lesson you can learn from marriage?
Yeah. He's giving you time to think. That's good news.
Go for it. Go for it.
I really don't know how to go into that one. I guess. Wow, I don't really know how to touch that one.
It's a lot of lessons that you learn.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot that you actually pick up. Learning to share, learning to be responsible for someone else other than yourself. All of those things actually is what comes in my mind, what comes to play, and not just just me, myself, and I. I've learned that life is not about just me. It's about, with this relationship, it's about me taking care of her interests, the things that she really needs, especially the needs, not necessarily the wants, not all of the wants, but especially the needs. I need to make sure that she's taken care of as far as that goes. Now, some men will say, it ain't about that. But I learned a long time ago that my paycheck is our paycheck. And so, yeah, she takes care. To take care of her need is the biggest thing. But unity, togetherness, and stuff like this all comes to mind when you ask a question about marriage, because I'm talking long term. Yeah, being in the game.
Yeah, I would say I like that putting the other person first, having enough respect for the other person, to put that other person first, you know, selfish, not being selfish. Yeah.
Now, you said love, she said respect. We was going to get into this. I was going to talk to you about this. So, you know, in the Bible, it talks about a man loving his wife as Christ loved the church, and a wife having to respect. Now, my question for you is, how did you learn the discipline of love? You know, because most of the time we talk about the action, but what about the discipline of loving her? And for you, how did you learn the discipline of respecting him and working on respecting him, even though sometimes he may not have did what you would have advised him to do, or he may not have did something the way that you looked at it? So who wants to go first?
Okay, now I'll definitely take this first because I had great example. My father. Now, a lot of people talks about, you know, the relationship they had with their mom or their dad or whatever the case may be. I can't think of a negative one, you know, that I had with my father. He was always there, and he always loved my mom. He always showed that he loved my mom. They were married so long, but they were always one. And the kids and nobody else got in the middle of that relationship, as far as that goes, because dad would not allow it. So I understood I saw it demonstrated in front of me, that love language, you know, how to love that other person, so on and so forth. Did they have disagreements? Yeah, they did. Did they disagree from time to time? Did they argue from time to time? Yeah, they did. But at the same time, it was not physical. It was not a violent type of situation and stuff like this. And then, but they showed they was really genuinely concerned, and they loved each other. And you know, if the kid messed up, the thing that we used to hear the most, and it was always true: wait till your daddy get home.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
But the thing was, my mom would whoop us, and then so you get double. We deserved it, but you know.
So yeah, it was just demonstrated before me coming up.
Give me the question again.
How did you learn the discipline of respect, and how hard was it to learn how to respect him? And, you know, like in situations where, let's say he didn't do something the way that you should expect him to do it, or how you wanted him to do it. How was learning to respect him?
Prayer. I would say prayer. And then as time goes on, you learn to show grace and mercy, you know, toward the person, you know, toward him, and to know that none of us, either of us, are perfect. So just learn. And then I think about a lot of times that I think the respect grew is the love that he does have for me. And I always know that he has my best at heart. And then how he takes care of me, how he looks out for me, you know. So that helps, you know, builds that respect. You can't but to respect a person, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Because, yeah, it's interesting now. Well, it's always been interesting, but people voice their opinions more on social media now. And a lot of people, men love other things more than they love their wives or their girlfriends who they plan to marry. And a lot of women respect other people more than they respect their spouses. Like a lot of women respect their friends more now than they respect their spouses. Because she can tell it more than I can. From what I've seen on social media and what I've heard and what I've read and seen, a lot of them, if the friend say something about the person, they're not going to deal with that person anymore because of what a friend who doesn't have a spouse or a partner says about the relationship. And so that's why I asked that, because, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions and things going on.
I think it's a misunderstanding of the love language, because you have to you understand that there's different forms and different types of love. And we deal with the agape love, which is the God, the unconditional love that God actually shows us. We should show one another, try as close as we possibly can to show the agape type of love. It's unconditional. I
Yeah,
love you regardless, and so on and so forth. But then there's phileo and the storage, and storage love is like a father loves a child, or a mother loves a child, or whatever the case may be, and the way the child loves back. And so that's just a different type of love. But the love that I have for her is so much into to the area. I try and have it as a unconditional type love because I trust I love her so much to the point that I trust her. Out of all these years, I know I can trust her. And so it ain't like she goes hop in the vehicle and she's gone for 2-3 hours and all of a sudden it's like, it's like, where's she at? And this and this. No, it ain't that. Now, I can trust that wherever she is, she's doing the right thing.
You got something to add on that?
I don't know. Y'all kind of looked at each other with that one.
We trust one another. Only thing I can't do a trust fall with her. I'm scared she might get hurt. So we can't demonstrate it with a trust fall. Yeah, I'm like double her size. I don't want. So, but yeah, trust. I think trust is one of the biggest things that you have to have.
And you know what? I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit. I think it's so important. I know you say, like, I see some things, too, on social media and whatever, and we've talked to our grown children, in their marriages, whatever. But you cannot measure yourself to someone else's relationship. And because you never know. A person will tell you anything. Somebody will tell you anything. Yeah. You can't even believe stuff that you hear on social media or you see on social media. So I think that people have to be so careful in who they listen to, who they take advice from. You have to be so careful.
Well, while we're on advice, I got a question. Were there any situations where family or friends were trying to creep in and mess things up? The laugh. I already know. I already know the answer, but I want to hear some stories. And then the story of how they crept in and how you guys shut it down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It is, I think we made up in our minds that we were not going to let family or friends interfere in our relationship. We don't know, even at a young age, 20, 21, when we got married, right? We just made that commitment to each other that we weren't going to let anyone interfere. And to go back to when he proposed and got married, there were people in my family that did not want us to get married. But I had to know, I'm going to marry, I'm going to marry you, we're in love, and he's a good guy, and I'm going to marry you. Because when I look back, too, there were not a lot of marriages in my family.
Speaking over.
There were not successful marriages in my family, starting with my mom and dad all the way down. I saw a lot of people committing adultery in my family. There was a lot of my cousins and, us, children out of wedlock. So really, I could say, I had one example, which I have an uncle now, and he's in his 80s, that their marriage still long, and I can't remember exactly what last anniversary that they celebrated. It's got to be, I think, 60-something that they celebrated. Now, my grandparents on my dad's side, they had a long marriage, but it was an abusive situation. So much that it was detrimental is the word. Yes, my grandmother shot my grandfather on. So I didn't have a lot of examples in my family. So I think at an early age, we were like committed to each other, saying we're gonna make this work.
And you know what? She's so right. She's right. And because we had dated for so long before we got married and going into the marriage, we always come with that understanding. We're not going to let anybody come in and interfere as far as the marriage goes. As a matter of fact, we knew we were going to get married. I had already proposed to her and so on and so forth, and she had already said, yeah, we're going to do this and so on and so forth. But I still wanted to do the right thing. So I'm just going to go in the house and I'm going to ask her.
I see a smile forming.
Man, I was going to ask her mom and her grandmom and do all of this thing and so on and so forth. And I walk in the front door and they walk out the back door.
Wow.
But we had been married for like we had been dating for like 6.5 years, as I say, 6.5 years prior to that. And they knew me, and they knew me very well. They knew my parents and everything else. They knew that we were together. But I walk in the house, and I'm sure that they pretty much knew that I was coming for that reason. And I walk in the front door, and they walked out the back door. No conversations whatsoever. I was like, okay. And so that's when it came down, and she says, okay. She said, well, what are you thinking? Because I went silent. She said, I'm going to go. I'm going to see you later on. And so I went and get back in the car and stuff like this. And so then she comes and she gets in the car on the passenger side. And I said, so I look at her and I said, so what do you want to do? She said, I'm going to get married. So, and I was like, okay. She said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I'll give you a call later on. Right? Mm-hmm. But I always understood that, no, I'm going to marry her. But it was like, at that point in time, it was a little hurtful as far as that goes, because they knew who I was. Yeah. Now, they didn't do that I don't think it's for no bad reason or bad thoughts or anything like that. It was just that I was in the military and I was already stationed in Arkansas, and so I'm getting ready to marry this girl and I'm getting ready to take her away. Yeah. And I think that was a big part of why they did what they did as far as walking out and stuff like that. But we didn't let that deter us. We went on with the marriage, and before we got married, they came around and they started working along with the wedding plan and everything else, even though it was small. But they kind of.
Our wedding cost only $500.
$500 in today's money, or $500 in that money?
Today's money is.
What year did you get married? I'm gonna find out right now.
81.
1981. Let's see here. Let's do the inflation calculator. 500 in 1981.
Marriage. That was the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
How much? Reception and all. Wedding
okay,
dress.
that's not too bad.
The ring.
Okay. It was only $1,700.
Yeah.
I say only loosely because I know how much people spend on a wedding.
Because the ring was, I purchased the rings, and that was separate.
Did you buy both rings or just her ring?
I bought both rings.
Yours?
Yeah.
Maybe I should have bought them.
Hey,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You,
she got me a good one.
It was a great plan. It was a great plan. I went to Gordon's Jewelers in Arkansas and got them cheap. No. But I had to upgrade since then. But no, it was the thing is letting other people interfere, letting other people help you make a decision concerning your partner. That's dangerous, because the partner is going to be offended. You know, and whether it's male or whether you, that partner is going to be offended one way or another. If she's got somebody coming and helping her making the decision on what she's going to do or what she's going to say concerning me, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work with me. And I knew it wouldn't work with her as far as that goes. So we avoided that like real early in the relationship.
And I think some of the good news for you guys, because you moved around a lot.
Right.
So I think that kind of forced you guys to, stick together.
Yes.
Yeah, to grow
Because
together.
as soon as you started establishing friendships, you had to go somewhere else.
Yes.
That's right. And I tell you something, you bring up a great point because it's one point in time, I guess, when we were in Texas. When we were in Texas, even though we were just there 2 years, we had, it was so many people. It was people from the church that we were dealing with at the church and so on and so forth. Some that she dealt with at the church that I didn't deal with at the church, and some that I deal with at the church she didn't really deal with as far as that goes.
So you couldn't have a get together at the house.
No, we didn't really. No, we didn't do the whole lot of get together because they really couldn't come to the base. We were living on the base, and so then it was like something being said or whatever the case may be. But before it got to a point of craziness, I have an assignment and we're leaving and we're now going to Japan. And so you're right. So by us moving a lot, we didn't allow other people or family or anybody else to really get in our relationship. The movement really, in a lot of ways, kept us tied together, saying, okay, well, we're getting ready to make this move. We're going to another country or we're going to another state or whatever the case. And it's me and you, girl. Let's do it. So
I wanted to make this comment before we go any further because, I don't want anybody to think that we're saying that we dated 6.5 years. What we did was, it wasn't really right. We remember that we want people to remember we weren't saved. But we did it like then because that's the way it was, at that time. Not saying that it was the right way to do it because we wouldn't even tell our children and grandchildren to do it that way. Now it's kind of like what Bishop talks about in church, like this extended dating thing. Because in that dating period, you don't live right. And we can confess, we were not living right.
not totally. That's true.
Yeah.
Because you notice what I say, we had a son. Mm-hmm. And then when we got married, our son was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there was already a situation, as far as that goes. And then I also said that here I was looking over here, this girl's buying me this meal because I can spend her money, but I wouldn't spend hers. Yeah. So we wouldn't necessarily, we were in church. Yeah. And we were always, it's from our teenage years. Actually, from her, I think she was maybe 1 day old going to church. But anyway, but from my early age, we've always been in church. But was God really, was I really allowing God to work with me? And so did I really understand the values of saying I'm saved or I'm in church or I'm a Christian? I didn't. We didn't know holiness. I didn't. As a matter of fact, at one point in time, I did these stupid, one crazy thing as far as that goes. I remember I was playing basketball. We got through playing ball, and I'm the last one out there on the court. I'm still shooting around, stuff like this. And I started thinking about, I had just got baptized a year prior and stuff like this. And I remember sitting there having a conversation with God. It's just me on the court, me and God. And I said, Lord, I'm going to live right when I get older. I said, hold on.
That's the conversation.
Yeah. And I say, hold on to me, but I'm going to live right when I get older. And that's the most ridiculous thing that I could have ever said in my life. But I remember making that statement and so on and so forth. So, yeah, but amen.
I know we've been here for a little bit of time.
We good. My stomach's saying let's eat, but we good. I'm with you. You got 3 more hours.
We do? Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, what else do you got, Jemia? What another question?
Okay, so this one says, how do you keep your marriage alive?
I'm sorry, it's the laugh. It's the laugh that got me.
Just like this. Like one point in time, we started.
See, this gonna be good.
We started doing this.
It's gonna be good, Jemia.
She would be working. She would go to work or what have you, and so, like this. And I know she's coming, and when she come back home, she's come back and she's tired. And so I would get up. I'd meet her at the door, and she opened the door, and I said, "Girl, come on over here and make yourself feel better. And she would come.
And I would go because I was stressed.
And she would come and she would wrap her arm around me and stuff like this and hug and stuff like that. I said, now don't you feel better? She said, yes. So it's little fun things. It's little games that we would play, together, or little conversations that we would have to try and keep life in the relationship. You have to work at it. You have to do something. You just don't sit back and just all fat gut watching TV and think it's just because we're here sitting here together. No, it don't necessarily just work.
Intentional
like
interaction.
So you really have to be intentional about doing, and you have to know this is what I did to get her, or this is what I did to get him, or this is what we used to do together, and so on and so forth. Don't let those things die. Don't let those things die, but add to them. Continue to grow.
And especially if you're that type of person like me, it don't take much for me. It don't take much, that excitement. So a lot of times we try to do something that's out of the ordinary, or on the spur of the moment. When we find ourselves doing more of that in our older years than we did, in our younger years.
Yeah, that is true. So I hope that answered that question.
It does, actually. I don't got nothing else to add on this one. What's the next one?
Okay, let's see. Okay, so this one says, what initially attracted you to one another, and are those characteristics still attractive in your spouse?
You know what? He's just a nice person. He is just a nice person. He's just a nice, friendly. He's a gentleman. And like he said earlier, how we started talking was because we were in junior ROTC, Air Force ROTC together. And I was just like, this guy is so nice. A little flirty. You know what I mean? just a nice guy, so mannerable.
You don't know nothing about me, girl.
And he still is today. He still is.
I don't know. I just, I come from a place where we just treat people. We just try and treat people right. And a lot of times it came off as being flirtatious, but it was not meant to be like that. It was not intended to be that way, but it was just, that was the makeup, And if you were to meet my sisters, then you would probably say, okay, yeah, I understand, because all of us, we still pretty much just love each other, so.
Yeah, loving and just kind-hearted. He's a kind-hearted person, and he'll help anybody. Sometimes I have to say, hold up. When you're talking about like the finance part of it or this part of it, say, hold up.
You can't pay everybody's rent.
I'm in the house you're going to take care of, sir.
What about you? What initially attracted you to her? And is that the same characteristic that attracts you?
Actually, that goes back to the letter that her friend gave me. She wrote the letter and so on and so forth, and her friend gave me the letter and said, Diane sent this letter. And then I started really looking at it. But she was different. As I always say, she was just living a saved life. And anybody else that I was dealing with during that point in time or looking at was not necessarily living that same life. So she was different. And so it was attractive. She was a clean-cut, neat person and who just carried herself very well, and she cared about, really she cared about her space and her, she wanted to make sure everything was right in her space. With her friends, like I said, she only had about 3 friends. 2 or 3 friends that she dealt with all the time, and other people, it's like, I'm gone, I don't want to be bothered. And this is as a teenager.
Ladies, gentlemen, you hear that?
and that within itself was attractive to me, and was like, okay, yeah, let me get to know her. And so, yeah, that's where it started to grow. After I received the letter and so on and so forth, it's like, okay. Because I was a knucklehead. I wasn't paying too close attention. All we were doing was just smiling together and just classmates. Until I received the letter, and I said, let me pay attention to this girl.
I didn't know her until, she wanted to work on the media team. Then I said, who's this? Who is this?
I understand.
When you work in the booth, you don't really see people in the congregation. Yeah. And then when she came over to want to help, I said, well, hello.
That's good. Hello. There you go. That's right. I like that. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's still attractive to you today.
Still attractive today. Same thing.
A close-knit friend group.
Yeah.
Not in everybody's business. Not in everything.
That's right. Call my name. Okay. If you don't call my name, okay. We good. You ain't that type of person. I gotta steal the show or whatever the case may be. It's got to be all about me. She's never been that person at all. So most of the time she'll take the back road, and so those things are just attractive.
I don't know how many questions we got left. Not too many. Many.
Yeah.
I know we don't have a number on here, but a guesstimation. We can be here all night, guys. I mean, this is some good information.
Yeah,
well, I messed up the last time, so I'm giving you a chance now. So, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Most of these questions are kind of like the same, and we talked about it before, like commitment, like staying committed and staying devoted to each other. Let's see. Okay, this one says, how powerful did the need for transparency and vulnerability hit you as you and your spouse learned one another spiritually and emotionally?
It's a long question.
Yeah, it's a long question.
Break it down, Jemia. Break it down.
Okay, so first, how powerful was the need for transparency and vulnerability?
Transparency and vulnerability. I think those things are important. However, I don't think I was as transparent going into the relationship. For the first so many years, I wasn't transparent with who I necessarily was. I think it was a lot of with the separation and stuff like this because we married now, and all of a sudden it's 6 months before you're going to move to actually stay with me. You're ready to leave your job now. You're ready to leave your parents, whatever the case may be. And so I don't know if transparency was actually played itself in that game. I wasn't being so transparent about what was going on in my life during this time. And so
I would say the same thing. Not so much transparency because we know that things that we had to deal with later, family history and all, stuff that we had to deal with once we got on in our 30s. We were, stuff would come up and we would deal with, stuff like that. So transparency is very important. Might as well just go and get it all out. just get it all out.
A glass house to one another.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And so, when you look back at it now, there's a point in time. I say the first couple of years, we wasn't so transparent. But after that, after a while, I think it came about the time that we moved. We left Arkansas and we went to the Philippines. So I was stationed at Clark Air Base in the Philippines. And that's when it's like the first time we were away from America, away from the United States. Yeah. And now here we are, we're gone together. And that was really an eye-opener saying, okay, baby, it's us.
We out here.
In a place with a different language for the most part.
Different language, yes.
Unless you're on base, but yeah.
But we had to be, I think that caused us to be transparent. And we looked at that state of being vulnerable or whatever the case may be. We looked at those risks and those things that could possibly happen. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we really start looking at and taking care of one another. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay in Arkansas. We still in the States, and I'm still only a about 3.5, 4 hours away from home. She can drive back, but in the Philippines.
And it takes a lot of planning too.
That's right. That's right. A lot of planning and money that we did not have. So, yeah.
And if you were saving up the money, you was gonna find out.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to let your guard down. You know, being vulnerable is really letting your guard down with your, new spouse, is letting your guard down. It's okay to let, your spouse know that you heard about something, or you don't feel right about something. You don't feel good about something, or if there's a shame, in your life, stuff like that. Just, being open. Yeah.
So certain things was, and hold that question.
Yeah,
don't forget it.
I'm holding it.
But think about it, Rhea. But certain things, like I say, we was transparent about, and certain things we were not so transparent about. Yeah.
And now, on transparency, how important was it not to, take the vulnerability that your partner had in an argument or conversation and use it as damage power?
Yeah, as a weapon. Extremely. We didn't. One thing about us, we did it as though we wasn't so transparent, but we never really fought. We didn't, especially in those early years. There wasn't necessarily a whole lot of times that we were at odds to the point where it's become the argument. We didn't do a lot of arguing in those first years. There was one time that I could think of, and this is while we were still there in Arkansas, and I never was a drinker, but I was trying to hang out with the fellas. And so this time, I drove and was off base. We lived on base, and I drove off base where the guys were. No, we lived. Was it opposite? No, yeah, we lived on base, and the party was off base. And so I went out to hang out with the guys. Philip Drive. Yeah. And so I went out hanging with the guys. Well, I called her on the phone later on. I said, "Hey, babe, because you got to come back through the gate. The security guards at the gate, they got to check your ID. They're going to look at you in the whole 9 yards, and it's 100% no drinking, no nothing, so on and so on."
And well, stop. When that had happened is when we had our daughter.
Okay.
Yes.
And his little partners had called themselves, giving him a little bachelor's, little party,
little party,
congratulations party. Okay,
Yeah.
good night, pick it
And
up.
so there I am. I'm like, okay, I called her. I said, "Hey, babe," I said, "I've been here with the guys for a while." I said, "And I did have a couple of drinks." I said, "So I don't think I need to drive back on that base right now." I said, "I don't think I need to drive through the gate." She said, "Whatever." And whatever is like, okay, you can stay if you want, but, And so I was like, "What? Huh? Okay, do whatever you're going to do." And so now I'm thinking, okay, now so you trying to get upset, and I'm trying to tell you the truth. I'm trying to tell you, if the security stopped me at the gate, I'm going to jail. And so it's like, you want me to drive through that? You want me to try to get back on the base and stuff like this? And she said, "No, do whatever you want to do. I don't care." And she hung the phone up. And I'm like, what the world just happened? And so I'm like, okay, drive back on the base.
You got your friend that drive you back, bro.
Did it?
Yeah.
Will?
Uh-huh.
Okay, one of my friends drove me back on the base. He had been drinking too, but.
But he didn't want to be you in trouble. Come here, Will John.
So he drove me back on the base.
Now, ask him, what valuable lesson did he learn there? Because he was so sick that he was throwing up and saying, "Baby, don't let me do this no more, don't ever." So that's valuable lesson.
So I really didn't learn a lesson. So, amen. So.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right. Is that all the questions?
Oh, okay. This one, it says, okay. I had to read it. Okay, so it says, in the moment you wanted to call it quits, what occurred for you to choose? For you to, I guess, choose to stay.
But that one incident, you brought that one up, so go for it.
What, this one?
That one time that we broke up.
Oh, what made me not quit? It just have to be love. I mean, it would have to be just being in love, to make me not want to quit and not give up, because we had been together for so long. I think so. Yeah.
Now I know for you,
Okay.
on your side of things,
She saw all of this. She wasn't going nowhere.
That too.
the other Ellis wasn't.
The other Ellis guy was gone. He was way out the picture right here. So it's like, okay. I don't know. I guess I can go back to the point where I say we just knew. We just knew that we were going to be together, and that's the way, just the way it was going to be. Now, the other, when I found that letter and read that letter, and the couple of days that I separated and so on and so forth, I wasn't at peace. So I already knew I need to go back and do it right and apologize or whatever the case may be, or make amendment or whatever the case. Even though I didn't write the letter, but no, we knew pretty much that we were going to be together. We didn't have many issues. We didn't deal with many issues as far as that goes in the dating process of the 6 years or whatever the case, or the first so many years going into it. We didn't deal with too many issues, so we was pretty much good together.
I think it's because you guys are friends too. So
Friends.
that's the main reason. You don't want to hurt your friend
Right.
real bad either.
We were from a small community. We knew just about everybody in that whole community and so on and so forth. And we certainly knew each other. And so it's like, I know who this person is and so on and so forth. And I knew the type of person she was. Even though I did find a letter, he's trying to holler. I already knew her. So, yeah, I had to take that all. You have to take all that kind of stuff in consideration. I wasn't going nowhere.
All right, I know I think we out of questions on here. Yeah, we're out of questions. Well, what drew you to trust each other? But we talked about that most. Did we talk about what you think, or should you ask them that
I
one?
mean, y'all can talk on it.
Go ahead, ask them.
Yeah.
Go ahead, ask officially.
So what drew you to trust each other? Like, whether it was more trust or like in the beginning you had to trust. It's like, what kind of drew you?
And trust each other as in the relationship within itself.
They asked. That's what the person gave me. What drew you to trust each other? By the way, if you have questions, put them in the comments. We're gonna get them back probably.
Oh, I
and
didn't
get some
realize we
more.
were live. Too.
No, we're not. We're not live.
Oh, okay.
It's coming out. It should be out on Valentine's Day.
Well, let's see. That's a good time. Yeah. What drew us to trust each other? I guess just growing together. Yeah, I guess just growing together, and as I say, knowing each other, and really being those friends. Like I say, she's been in the church the whole time. I wasn't so much. I was in the church, but at the same time, I was still doing so many other different things. But the trust came pretty easy for me because I knew her lifestyle, and I knew her life. I knew her family as well, but she was just different, even from the family, even from them. So I knew her, so it's easy to trust her.
I would say also that it takes day by day, year by year, and it's a growing process that you learn to trust, more and more.
All right. After all these years, 50 years, what's your favorite thing about her now? It might change. It might be the same thing. What's your favorite thing?
cooking. No. She's quite the chef.
Oh, I know. I've had we need to go learn the gravy,
There you go.
and
Yes.
the grits.
Come on over. Anytime. Green light. You got a green light. But no, that's been a big part of it for real, though. I mean, I say that jokingly, but that's been a very big part of the fact that she do take good care of me. She's going to make sure I'm fed. She's going to make sure there's something there. If when the mealtime comes, I don't worry. I'm not concerned. So, yeah.
What's your favorite thing about him?
I think his ability to provide for me, to protect me, and he just kind. He makes me laugh. Sometimes they saying you had the wrong profession. You should have been a comedian. So
We would have been poor.
He keeps me happy. Yeah.
Or should I say
with joy.
poorer?
Yeah.
Poorer.
Yeah. And just kind. Yeah.
But the way she actually she takes care of her home, the way she takes care of her home, that's really a joy to me. It's not just the cooking, but it's the house preparation and home preparation. It's comfortable. She makes it comfortable, and the fact that we are still friends, all of that stuff plays a part of it. But the one attractive part is the fact that how well she still cares enough to take care of me.
What are you guys looking forward to in these next few years? What's like, let's say for the year and 2 years, 3 years, for the next 3 years, what are you guys looking forward to in your marriage?
Wow.
You always got plans and things going on.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess looking at the situation that I just come from is for when we come back from North Africa with the missions assignment. When we come back, I came back and physically somewhat ill, and so she had to help me with that as far as nursing and taking care of me and being a caregiver. So I haven't really thought that far ahead, but I think we both can agree to say we're still open to whatever God desires, whatever God has for our life. We want to do it, but we want to do it together. And, whether we go together or, on a trip or whatever the case may be, we want to be in agreement to whatever is happening as far as that goes. We're that much a part of each other that we don't want to make a decision like moving at God's will without both parties being on board. Just as it was the first time we left. So we're comfortable in our space and where God has us now. But we know that there's more. We still want to grow, and we want to grow it, and we want to do it together.
Just want to live, day by day. We want to live every day like it's our last day. We want to enjoy each other, in these, last days. Yeah. We really want this to be, we was teasing before, so we living our best life. And that's what we really want to live right now. In the next few years, we want to live our best life.
And I don't think it's so much of a tease. That's just pretty much where we are. We say that as a tease, but I think that's pretty much where we are. We're together. It's a love interest. Is it without concern or without fault or without problem? No, sometimes stuff comes up, but at the same time, we're together.
Is there an activity that you guys are planning to do, or a class you might want to take together? Skydiving or something? I don't know.
No.
No, I don't think so. No, I think we're pretty much at that point now. We just want to just
Live comfortable.
do whatever. Yeah, just live in a comfortable space, and live under the law of righteousness, and just smile, and be happy. Yeah.
You got any more questions, Jemia? All right, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you go with about 3 hours to spare. But,
Wow! I was just warming up. No.
yeah, we went through a lot though.
We
went
did.
through. Thank you for being firstly transparent and explaining and telling us all these stories and all the good advice. One more piece of advice that you would give anybody who's listening about marriage.
Okay. I would say it like this. You know, a lot of times people come up and start talking about marriage being 50-50. Marriage is not a 50-50 thing. It's really not. There's been time where I've been without and she had, and so she had to pull the 80% and I pulled the 20. Or there's other. Then most of the time I'm pulling the 60% and she might be pulling the 40. But as long as it equals to 100 and we're doing it unified and doing it together and taking care of the household and taking care of the children, taking care of all those things, then we're good. You know, so don't look for 50-50 and so on and so forth. I think as a man, the man needs to be that, as we say here in the church, that priest, provider, and protector. Those things are necessary. The man needs to step up and be the man in the relationship. Don't wait for the invitation to take the trash out, or wait for an invitation to do anything to help out in the household, but just go forward and do those things. I think that's important to know, especially an early relationship, someone who's just really moving forward in their relationships and stuff like this. Just understand that you identified that person. You said, "This is my mate." Yeah. So take care of her. This is my queen. And she's always been my queen. And so 50 years down the road, she's still my queen. And so I want to take care of her as my queen. Does that mean that I'm going to meet every need that she wants or everything, and so on and so forth? I'm going to do my best at it, but at the same time, I know sometimes I might fall short. But even when I fall short, I think the relationship is at a point now so groomed that we can forgive one another and we can understand where we are and be real about it. But just be, as you use the word transparent, just be transparent to one another and just build a trust relationship, and everything else will work itself out. Stay with God. God, the answers that you need are always in the Word. Stay with God, and He'll take care of you.
Anything else to add? Or
Oh, wow. I would say to make sure when that man finds someone and that, that young lady, make sure that you're getting married for the right reason. Because if you're getting married for sex, once you get in the bed, you still going to have to get out the bed because you got to get out to go to work. You got to get out to go take care of the kids. You got to take care of the house. And then find someone that is equally yoked. I believe that God gave us grace and He gave us mercy. But for that new and that other young couple or older couple that is coming in, make sure you're saved. Make sure that person is saved, because that is going to help you. Being saved, having a relationship with God, and most of all, having a prayer life. Have a sincere, committed prayer life. Because when all else fails, you can't change a person, but you can pray for a person and let God do that work. So, I would say salvation is the top of my list. make sure that that person is saved, and both of you all are saved and trying to live, for God.
Now, one thing that she said, and it kind of reminded me of something. She said, "Make sure you're together." We are complete. Most of the time, we come up as complete opposites. I mean, I was all about the sports. I was all about being out. I was all about being in the crowd. She was always about being in the house and being around grandmama or whoever the case may be, and so on and so forth, and being very quiet. We were complete opposites. So when she said that God gave us grace, God gave us a lot of grace.
A whole lot of grace.
A whole lots of grace. And so, but as much as we didn't grow up looking at the same things or looking for the same challenges and stuff like this, we have grown together. We are together, and we are, as far as that goes. Every now and then I might come up, and I'll do it now, and says, "Hey, babe, I'm bored. I just want to go and do something. Let's go." And she's content. She's okay. She sit around the house and she's just content. And that bug come up every now and then and says, "I just want to let's go bowl. Let's go get some
watch a movie or something.
Let's go do something." And stuff like that. So, but as much as we were different, we still was able to grow together by God's grace.
I think that's the best note to end on.
Yeah, it is.
You got anything else to add? Or?
No, do you?
I don't. Thank you both for accepting
you.
the invitation. It took us a minute, but we got here. We finally got here. Thank you both. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you too. Thank you to both of you. And we do apologize for the last time you told me to hold on, and I was like, okay, I'm holding, but somebody asked me another question, and next thing I know, my mind was gone and I was gone. So, but I'm glad we were able to get it done.
Thank you very much. All right, we might have y'all back. If somebody has any more questions, send them in. We'll get you back on, and you'll answer these too.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. God bless everybody.